All right, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. Um, Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Taking the Fear Out of Coding. Thank you for taking the time out and being here. Just a few housekeeping items before we jump in. We'll be running a live Q&A session after the webinar at the end of this webinar. So please feel free to use the chat feature to put in any questions that you may have along the way. And we'll make sure to have some time at the end to answer those questions for you. Also, if you miss any part of the content presented today, please make note that we will be sending out a recorded version of this webinar at a later time when it's available. Thank you so much. Just a couple of brief introductions here. I am Preston Frazier. I'm the Midwest Education Advisor for the state of Iowa, so I can help answer any questions that you may have along the way. Any questions on the products and solutions that we have to offer. And just if you have any programs and things that you are wanting to implement inside your school, I can help you out with that. I've been with Pitsco for about 6 years now, and so I'm happy to work with everyone and all teachers, students, administrators in the state of Iowa.
Hi, I'm Steph Forbes. I am the coding and robotics lead for Pitsco Education. I have spent my career in STEM, particularly in helping districts and schools bring coding and robotics solutions in. I have worked in some capacity with Pitsco for the last 20 years. I'm really excited to be here with everyone today.
And before we actually get started with today's webinar, I just wanted to kind of share a brief introduction on who we are here at Pitsco Education. So we are a hands-on STEM education company that aims to provide valuable and meaningful learning experiences for all students, pre-K up through 12th grade and even into post-secondary as well. Pitsco Education is a leader in future-ready learning, future-ready learning curriculum fundamentally rooted in STEM. For more than 50 years, and a quick side note, we were founded in 1971 by a group of 3 industrial arts teachers that saw a need for hands-on learning way back then, and that's kind of where we started. We started in a garage, believe it or not. And so for more than 50 years, we've offered a comprehensive range of scalable hands-on solutions and curriculum. We help educators across the country and across the world create learning environments that really address all learning styles and all different types of students find success. We want to help students find success while solving problems, being creative, articulating ideas, and thinking with their hands. It's our goal, and really since 1971, it's always been our goal to make it easy for schools to bring materials to the students in the classroom and to create lifelong learners, successful professionals, and engaged future-ready citizens. We promise to remove all barriers to bring cutting-edge educational technology solutions to the classroom. Our mission from day one as well has always been to lead education that positively affects learners. Pitsco's core mission is one that it shares with its teachers that we have the pleasure of serving, and that is we want to see students succeed. We want young people to grow into confident, thoughtful leaders in whatever career or pathway they decide to take in life. We want them to have the technical and workplace skills desired in today's competitive landscape, because we all know that today's workforce landscape is very, very competitive, and we want those students to have those skills necessary for that. But students aren't likely to develop those traits and skills in schools if they are not first engaged through hands-on learning. Seasoned teachers often speak of the light bulb moments they see in students when the students finally get the topic that they are studying in the classroom. And here at Pitsco Education, we strive to create those light bulb moments in the students as well. I won't spend a whole lot of time on this slide, but just wanted to share with you kind of the impact of what we've had over the years, starting in 1971 till now. I mentioned that we help students on a global basis, and as you can see here, we've actually been able to help students in over 60 different countries, as our solutions have shipped to over 60 different countries. On average, we help about 3 million students annually, and one thing that I'm very, very proud of is that more than 44% of our customers that we get to help on a daily basis have been customers of ours for over 20 years. We have over 3,000 products in our portfolio and in our catalog. And also, as I mentioned before, we like to prepare students for career-ready skills in the workforce. Our curriculum and our solutions actually touch on over 1,000 different types of careers. And then also, we provide PD and professional development for over 800 teachers on an annual basis. So you have that support as well from us. And then one last thing before I hand it off to Steph is that what we do here is we like to create unique experiences for the teacher and for the student. As I've already mentioned before, we have a wide range of different ways in which we create that unique experience. As you can see here, we have products and curriculum and training and services. From the services side of things, we have a technical support team, we have an order support team, and we have a product support team as well that helps answer any types of questions you may have along the way. We also have, from a curriculum standpoint, we create user guides that are tied to standards. We also have full-scale curriculum. So, for example, if you're needing a full-scale STEM lab, we can help you with that as well. We also have various products and supplemental activities in coding and computer science, drone technology, believe it or not, as well. And so we really like to kind of touch on every angle to support the teacher and the student where they're at, and to make it easy for the teacher to implement our solutions as well. On one last side note, I mentioned that the training as well. We have virtual professional development, we have in-person professional development, and then also on some of our solutions, we provide e-learning courses as well. So from every angle, we want to make sure that you are able to impact your students in a positive way with what we have to offer with our solutions.
All right, thank you, Preston. So kind of what the focus of the webinar today is really around the mandates that are going to be rolling out around the computer science and the implementation of the standards. What is that expectation? What's that going to mean in the classroom for both students and teachers? And so, one of the first things when we start thinking about, developing the portfolio and the resources and tools and working alongside districts is really unpacking, what is computer science? And one of the big things is that it's more than coding. While coding is very much a critical and integral part of computer science, we know that as technology continues to advance, we'll talk a little bit about jobs of the future in a few more slides, that it's not about creating a cohort of coders, that we know the workforce when it comes to the areas of computer science is going to start to broaden. And what that skill set will look like, we talk about jobs of the future that haven't yet been defined. The skills around these different areas and parts and pieces of computer science are going to be a part of that. And so, as the focus and implementation of standards and the prioritization of bringing computer science into school happens, really understanding, what is computer science, from a skill set and a level of understanding, and then what are the parts and pieces that make it up? What are students going to have an understanding of, an experience of, be aware of when it comes to these different areas, and as technology is advancing? And then what does that mean for the classroom? What types of tools and resources are going to need to be available and implemented? And how do we implement this? And how do we, as a partner in education, help support educators like yourselves and districts in bringing the most meaningful and impactful tools and resources into the classroom to set students up for success for the jobs of the future. And if we kind of unpack this a little more, looking at it from a broader spectrum of, these areas, while they have their own niche and focus, that when we look at them as really like a puzzle piece, that while they have their purpose in silo, it's really about them working together to innovate and solve problems, and move us forward from a societal standpoint. And so what does that mean when we think about bringing it into the classroom? So why computer science? We know that this is an area where education is putting a lot of emphasis. We know that the job landscape of the future is very heavy in as far as the types of jobs that will be available and where they'll be in the computing area. we know that we continue to face a workforce shortage to fill the current jobs that we have in the areas of computer science. And what are students going to need, and what types of tools and experiences are they going to need to have that are going to broaden their awareness and their skills and their understanding outside of what is a traditional coder job? If we look at, when we talk about, the jobs of the future and they haven't yet been defined, if we're looking at this slide at kind of the areas when we see like the future high demand jobs, we see the word specialist a lot. We know companies are going to need specialists in these areas, but we don't know exactly what that's going to entail yet. And that's the yet to be defined. And when we're looking at these different areas, from an educational landscape, what does that mean? Like, what are we going to need to be thinking about, and how we teach students about these different areas that make up computer science, and these different practices and principles that will be delivered and rolled out through the standards. Industries will continue to invest in technology, and today we're going to focus on physical computer science from a standpoint of coding and robotics and some other digital tools. But we know that robotics and automation are going to push this job market to transform in a rapid way that's going to demand a skilled workforce. The World Economic Forum found that companies investing in technology and automation, they're going to start to need this skilled workforce by 2025, and that isn't far away. So two examples recently that I've engaged with, where I'm starting to see how this automation and areas that kind of make up computer science and technology are impacting the current workforce, is a lawn service provider reached out to me around bringing a robotic lawn mowing system in. And when I was having a conversation and asked kind of, why, kind of the why behind it, it was because they don't have people to fill the role. They have a shortage in their jobs and people to do the work. And so they've moved to technology and automation to help fill that need. And so when we think about, yes, robotic lawn mowing systems and developing that, we also have to be thinking about the folks that are working alongside it, in the way that the current students in education, the type of jobs that they're going to have. It's not all about innovating and developing, but it's also working alongside and having that understanding of technology and how to work with it. I was also at a restaurant where I had a Bella the robot server brought me my dinner. And when I talked to the manager, what inspired you, or what interested you in pursuing bringing a kind of a robot helper server in, and it was all about efficiency. That they had done an analysis, and by adding this robot to the way that they ran with their current staff, that it actually made it more efficient, and also helped if they were a little short-staffed as well. So again, the workforce shortage that industries are engaging with, and also talking about that he had to train his staff in a different way to be able to work alongside this technology. So when we're thinking about how are we bringing in this technology and learning around these areas within computer science and technology, while it is important for students to have certain level of skill, there's also importance of awareness of how this technology works, and knowing that, most likely the students of today are going to be working alongside technology more than ever. So if we look at what's currently happening in computer science in Iowa, so some statistics on open computing jobs. And when we look at the open computing jobs, notice that it doesn't say open coding jobs. Again, thinking of computer science in a broader term, coding is very much a key part of it, and what students will be learning about in education, but also keeping that broader mindset of what is computing, what is computer science, and what type of jobs fall into that, in addition to traditional coding jobs. We know that we've started to see an increase in the number of public high schools that are teaching different computer science classes as part of their offering. And we know that we're starting to see a slight increase in the number of computer science graduates. But when we're looking at the statistics of what's being offered and what's graduating, we see that there is a significant gap to the jobs that are out there. So if we look at kind of unpacking a little bit, the Iowa, the new state standards and the new computer science standards that are going to be coming into play more heavily over the next couple of years. We look and we can see that we have that overarching concept. So the algorithms and programming, which goes back to a little bit more of that coding in the traditional sense of what we think of when we think of computer science. And then we have those sub-concepts. So within that broader concept, what are those different pieces and parts that make it up that will be important for students to have an understanding of, get experience with, and be able to apply? So what is that application? And we can see as you progress through that it's a progressive build on what they're doing, how they're learning about it, how they're speaking about it, and what's their experience. And so, in kind of going back and from the partner standpoint, when we're looking at this, ensuring that the tools and solutions that we can work alongside districts to bring in allow for that flexibility and growth. That we know students are going to need to start in an area where it's more of an exploration, and then they're going to be moving forward into more of that technical side of it. So what are some approaches that we take when we're working with districts and also supporting, building out our portfolio and aligning with what their program needs? So the big thing, as Preston talked about, is the needs analysis. So truly understanding when your school or your district is talking about, addressing these standards, providing opportunities, building programs, what is that needs analysis? What is the key objectives that you're going to need? We also know from talking with educators the importance of, for the younger grades, it needing to be very cross-curricular and exploratory. There are a lot of really great digital tools. We also know the power of learning through hands-on. And as Preston mentioned, that's at the core of what we do, is that hands-on physical kinesthetic learning. And so helping and enabling schools in districts that are wanting to find the balance with digital and physical. We know that hands-on helps students make connection to abstract concepts. If we think about computer science, there's a lot of abstract concepts that a physical experience can really help students make that connection with. It also, hands-on also helps reinforce concepts. It fosters those 21st century skills that we know all students are going to need to have, from collaboration, learning together with peers, being able to solve problems, being able to iterate and be creative and innovative. It allows them that physical iteration and experiment, and it's the connection to the real world. Again, taking it from that abstract to something concrete that they can relate to. We conducted a survey of over 300 educators that in some capacity had a connection to teaching or directing computer science in their school or district. But we asked them, what are the most important pieces that you need to help successfully implement computer science, coding, technology effectively with impact. And some of the critical or the key things that they came back is strong teacher resources. So from a partner perspective, understanding that the tools and the portfolio that we build out contains strong teacher resources that support success in implementation with impact, that it blends that physical and digital experience that the students can move between, that there's real world connections, that it's project based. We talk about technology for good. So how can we bring more of that through these projects as students are learning about all of these areas in technology, computer science, coding? Again, we talked about it being cross-curricular, understanding that it can't be one more thing, that it has to be very purposeful and intentional. And then providing those professional learning opportunities, that it needs to be an easy classroom management and that it promotes creativity. So when we approach kind of working alongside and what we want to make sure that we're providing and helping support with implementations, as Preston mentioned, that the tools and resources that we develop and partner with have a high level of student engagement. And we know that hands-on helps promote that student engagement, that we're making connections to the real world, that the projects, that the curriculum, that the tools they're using that they're able to relate it and tie it something back that ties to the real world, as well as careers. So we talk about workforce skills, so that we're introducing careers and embedding careers in how students are engaging and thinking about this, that they can see something out in the real world that's tangible from a career standpoint. And that it's that's hands-on, that kinesthetic learning that's at the heart of Pitsco, that's top of mind. And then that we're making sure that we provide the resources and tools to help any teacher, regardless of wherever they're entering, teaching these concepts, to be successful. So let's look at an example of what a coding journey, a computer science and physical coding and robotics journey could look like, through the portfolio of what Pitsco offers. So if the desire is to have, from the pre-K into the early elementary, if the focus is on screen-free, exploratory, learning those basic fundamentals, patterns, routes, loops, if that's kind of the direction or the objective of the district, then an example of what this could look like using or through the Pitsco portfolio would be the Bbot, and Kubo and Bluebot. And so these can all be screen free. And you can see they also provide a little bit of differentiation in how students are learning the application. So Bbot is onboard programming. So students are punching the button, they're planning out paths and routes. Kubo is a little different, as opposed to having onboard programming. They build it using puzzle pieces and little tag tiles that have directions and images. So they're actually physically building their code like they would a puzzle and planning it out. Kubo also moves them into a little bit more higher level thinking. We talked about loops and structures, and it also allows to get into some applications of math through coding. And then Bluebot, again, back to that on screen, but then this also brings in, if the teacher is ready or if the objective is to start to introduce or blend the onboard programming with an app, this is where Bluebot would come in. If the need is to also bring the arts into the experience, or how students are engaging with physical computing, then you would incorporate CodeCube, which is pixels. It's a codable wearable. It has a very low floor that allows students, regardless of their background, to jump in and get comfortable and be successful with coding. Then as we progress, we talked about moving into that kind of middle school and high school range, where it's becoming more of that technical, a little bit more technical in the way that the students are learning or engaging. So you could move into the U-Kits, and this also provides the flexibility for districts that are maybe wanting to have a little bit more of an engineering feel to their experience. So we see that Bbot and Kubo and Bluebot, they're all pre-built robots. But we know districts, there's a need for that mechanical engineering side, as students are learning about computer science and coding and technology. The Fable robots, as we start to move into middle school and high school, if the desire is to have an engineering experience, but more of a quick build, quick iteration, Fable would be a solution that they could incorporate. And this also allows for a scalable coding experience as well. So moving from a block base with the U-Kit to a block base in Python with Fable. So talking about the flexibility and the scalability of the programs we want to be able to provide, where students are moving between coding languages and able to progress. As we move into the upper middle and then into high school, introducing the idea of how do we build kind of a coding and robotics course from middle and high school that provides different engagement levels of what makes up robotics, of what makes up controllers, and as well as the mechanical design. So you would move into the Arduino education, where you're focusing more on the electrical engineering and coding side of learning about how things are powered, how things are controlled, into the Tetrix building platform, which is that mechanical side, more of that engineering, exploration, iterating, again, moving from Python then into C. So the idea behind the platform is to really make it as flexible as possible, so that districts can really identify what are your key objectives, what are you wanting to focus on, what does that classroom experience need to look like, and then helping to build a program that is scalable and meets those needs and objectives. So it's an exciting time if we look at the slide, the cities of the future. So it's an exciting time. Technology is going to continue to move at a very fast pace, and we'll need to ensure students are ready for the challenges and the careers that don't yet exist. Learners are going to need to have a different understanding of technology and not just be consumers and producers and innovators, but they're also going to be able to work alongside. And the job landscape, we know, is going to start to shift from those traditional coders to a more broader spectrum and a more broader view of what computer science and computing is. We saw earlier that, the correlations that make up the computer science standards are a great way for education to be able to start to introduce these ideas, these concepts, these understanding and experiences to help ensure that all learners are future ready.
And now we're to the end, and we have our Q&A session. It does look like we have one question here so far. If you have any other questions along the way, feel free to drop them in the Q&A box below, and we'll answer them. But let's look and see. And so one of the questions here is, how are classrooms using robots? Are they built and assembled during class time and then programmed to do certain functions? You want to take that one, Steph?
You bet. So that's a great question. And the answer is yes to both. So there are two options that we see in education are those pre-built robots, like the Bebot and Kubo and Bluebot, where it's an out-of-the-box experience, charge the robot, and the students can get right into coding and learning and experimentation. There are other solutions, kind of depending on what that focus is and intention is in that course or class, where there is some design. So if you're thinking about like the U kits, Arduino kits, Tetrix kits, those are more of the engineering experience where students will take time, and the robots are assembled during class. Usually how it works is the first build is intended to be very quick, so it could take 45 minutes to maybe 1.5 class periods. The students get it built, provides them a little familiarity with how the system works, all the motors and sensors work, and then they move into the coding. So it can be both, really the intent of the class and what the intended experience is meant to be. That's a good question.
All right, I don't see any additional questions. Of course, thank you so much again. I just want to reiterate this. Thank you so much for the time today, for hopping on this webinar as we talk through some of our coding and robotics solutions and how we can impact your students in your school, in your district, in the state of Iowa. There's my contact information there. Like I said before, I am the education advisor for the state of Iowa. I am there to answer any questions, provide any additional support you have along this journey, and just be there to help you. At the end of the day, like I always tell other people, I like to impact students just like you like to impact students. And so we're here in the same boat together. I love to help and support you in that way. And thanks again, Steph, for your time and for the opportunity as well. And so if you have any other questions, just feel free to reach out to me. Thank you so much.